Hi there. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Follow Your Passion podcast. I'm your host, Erwin Wils. I'm a mindset and business strategist and founder of Millionaire Life Strategy. In this podcast, I'm interviewing my clients and other entrepreneurs that are following their passion and make a good living out of it. When you want to know more about me or what I can do for you, check out my website, millionaireLifestrategy.com. But first, check out this episode of Follow Your Passion. Hi everybody, welcome by a new episode of Follow Your Passion. This week I got Robert White, owner of Extraordinary People LLC. Robert is a very experienced mentor and trainer with regard to leadership. Back in the 70s, he already founded Lifespring and sold it to his staff, who expanded the company nationwide with over 700,000 graduates of personal development seminars. He then founded ARC International in Tokyo and expanded that throughout Asia and then USA. In 26 years, he designed and delivered high-impact experimental leadership trainings with over 500,000 graduates and over 1,000 corporations served. In 2002, he started Extraordinary People and has been a mentor, a consultant, an author, a leadership training, and public speaker ever since. He's approaching 50 years of being an entrepreneur, so he has a lot of wisdom to share with us. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you very much, Erwin. It's wonderful to be with you and with your audience.
Yeah. So, Robert, what made you decide to go into personal development and leadership?
Erwin, I was 27 years old. My life was a wreck. It sounds like some kind of a movie or a little bit too dramatic, but it was a wreck. I had had 3 heart attacks. I'd been told I was going to die by 35. I was struggling with a small business, not even able to pay my payroll for that month. And I was divorced and felt very guilty about that divorce. So life was a wreck. Of course, I was walking around like I have no problems and my ego out to there and all that stuff. And a friend went out to California and took one of the early human potential movement trainings called Mind Dynamics. He came back. He told me I should go. Of course, I resisted. The more I heard about it, the more I resisted. But I watched him, it sounds like a little too simple, get better. His business grew, his kind of struggling marriage healed and became very close and very intimate. And this guy had adult acne, something I didn't know even existed. But, as a teenager, you get the pimples on your face and it's a disaster, but it goes away. Yeah. It's not the worst thing that ever happened, even though you think it was. If you get it as an adult, apparently it's very hard to shake. And he had tried all kinds of things. And 3 months after this seminar that he went through, his face cleared up.
Oh, wow.
All the medical things didn't work. So I'm noticing his business is better, his marriage is working, and his face cleared up. So I went to the seminar. And it sounds like a cliche all these years later, but my life changed for the better. My business got better. My life got better. I'm obviously lived past 35. And it made a significant difference in my life. I learned to be less critical. I learned to take more personal responsibility for my life. Mm-hmm. And I did some forgiveness work on my past and began to live more in the present. And that led to some of the success that you mentioned. It wasn't all perfect. I also had a couple of major failures along the way, which, by the way, is very good for humility. They're hard to argue with when you fire 240 people and close 15 training centers. And you go through all of that. But a lot of success, 1,300,000 graduates now from these 3 companies that I've founded and led. And a best-selling book. So life's been good. Sometimes life's been not so good. But the tools that I learned back then, and then some subsequent work that I've done on myself, have served me well.
Nice. So, as you said, it hasn't always been roses down the road. There were some heavy bumps you had to take. Do you think that made you a better entrepreneur or a better leader? Those failures, so to speak.
A former wife has a lot of wisdom. I never figured out where it came from. She's barely a secondary school graduate, no university, but she really has a lot of wisdom. And that ARC name, ARC, the A stands for awareness. The R is responsibility, and the C is communication. So we named our company after what we did every day. She defines awareness just a little differently. She calls it a higher state of noticing. And when I have been most successful in business and in life, it's been when I've been more awake, when I'm really practicing a higher state of noticing instead of my judgments or my beliefs, or just to notice, first of all, myself. How am I feeling? How am I thinking? How's my energy? But also the people around me and the environment. The government environment, the political environment, the business environment, to really notice it and to make up less, to imagine less, and to really look at the reality around me. I think that's one of the things I've learned in working with executives, which is primarily what I do now, is how many of them are stuck in habits and patterns from the past, and they're a little bit asleep. And these are very smart people, very dedicated, hardworking, disciplined people, certainly ambitious to get to the level of where they're running these companies or owning these companies. Yeah. And yet I notice that they turn off their awareness to some degree. They become a bit numb to what's happening around them. And so I can help with that because I've been through it myself.
Nice. So would you say that one of your core talents is to awake those C-level managers and directors? Yes.
My book is titled Living an Extraordinary Life, but I wrote it at a time when I was waking up to some things happening in my life. I was living in a 7-bedroom home in Aspen, Colorado, with my own jet and traveling to 42 countries and skiing 80 days a year. I mean, life looked like it was perfect for me. But I was waking up in the morning thinking, God has not finished with me yet. And I didn't want to think that way. Life was so good for me. And yet I had this nagging feeling that there was something incomplete. And what that led to is actually the subtitle of the book, which is Unleashing Your Potential for Success, but also for joy and fulfillment. And in working with executives today, what I notice is, unfortunately, many of them aren't feeling much joy or fulfillment in what they're doing. Yeah. Even though they've reached the top of the pyramid, they're making a ton of money, they're getting a lot of recognition, they're doing a lot of good in the world, actually, but their experience of their work is sometimes less than it could be.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of a quote that I once read, that some people are so poor, all they have is money, right? And I think, so would you consider being part of your task, or how you want to call it, to complete their wealth in other areas of their lives?
Well, it's to integrate all of that. I'm not a fan of that word balance. I have a really bad knee. It goes back to teenage sport and lack of attention to my knee. And so I've had 4 knee surgeries on my left knee. And after that, you do rehabilitation. And one of the things in rehab, you get to a certain point, every time they bring out this devilish, evil machine called a little a roller about that big around. And then there's a board on top of it, and you stand on the board and you balance. Well, after knee surgery, that's a nightmare. And it's also a metaphor for how difficult balance is in life. It almost seems so unnatural. And I like the word integration. How can you integrate your career and the other things in your life that are important? Your wife, your husband, your family, your friends, and any philanthropic interest that you have, any interest you have in making the world a better place. There are many, many examples, Erwin, of people that have revolutionized their business by adopting a charity. It's an interesting thing. We're going to make more money by giving more money away. Isn't that an interesting thought?
That's an interesting thought indeed, yeah.
There's a financial advisor, it was a dear friend of mine down in some little town in Louisiana, has a huge financial advisory business, a huge team of really talented people. And but he deals mostly with wealthy families. And he rejects a lot of clients because what's essential to him is that when we do a financial plan, that we grow your wealth and grow your philanthropic involvement simultaneously, because he refuses to separate the two. And his name is Eric Dundevant, and he's one of my heroes in the world, because he's taken a stand, and he can prove it to you financially that you will make more money if you give more money away. Now, nice. The Christian Bible said that a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
But Eric lives it, and I really admire that. But look, in the ARC company's U.S. division, we dealt only with corporations, and we'd go out and talk to CEOs, and we would say, kind of our format was to say, is your team focused, aligned, and committed? Those were the three things that we measured. What we were really asking is, how's the energy around here? But that kind of freaks some executives out. So we said, we talked about focus, alignment, commitment. And they all said, oh, yes, yes, yes. And, look at this coffee cup that has a slogan on it, or look at this poster on the wall, or look at this study from McKinsey or Boston Consulting Group or somebody like that. Well, I'd say, great. And then we'd go out and interview the top 20 people. Usually it was 20 for 20 that were not focused, aligned, and committed. And they were bored. Now, they would never have admitted that, but their energy was low as they talked about their role, their task, about their focus, alignment, and commitment. And then what we learned to do was, at the end of the interview, to say, well, what do you do when you're not working? And people would light up. I'm coaching my daughter's soccer team. We're in third place, but boy, we've got a chance of winning this year. Well, maybe it sounds a little embarrassing, but I love my model train setup in my home. I've got a special room, and I've got 3 locomotives now, and I'm thinking of getting the 4th. That they're lit up about the most interesting things. My wife and I serve one day a week at the food bank, passing out food to needy families, and they light up about these things. And I think the wise corporate executive today, first of all, practices that himself or herself. They get interest outside of work where they can make a difference. And but also they encourage it with their teams.
Nice. And I think that's indeed important, because you can have all the alignments on paper, but when the people are aligned, that makes such a big difference in the business.
Yes, and increasingly with younger people. Well, first of all, if it's a larger company, they can go online and check your culture. They can find out if you are walking your talk, if you are actually living the values that you put on that poster or on that coffee cup. And but what they're looking for, and I don't know about in Europe right now, but in America, finding the best and brightest today is one of the biggest challenges that executives have. And because those people know that what they want is a company that has positive, life-affirming values and are living them. And they want to be part of that. And, older folks like me, we may judge that and say, well, wait a minute, you just got to earn your paycheck. But that's not going to attract the best and brightest. That's a guarantee today. Yeah, they want to be well paid, and they want benefits, and they want to, and they all want to leave work at 5:30. But they're also looking for a cultural fit. They want to make a difference. They want their work to matter, and they want to be in a company that does more than just turn out a product or push a product into the market.
Yeah. I was just thinking about the three companies you launched, Lifespring, ARC International, and now Extraordinary People. Did you learn from the former company when you started the new one? And did you take those learnings to build a better or more efficient company? Or is it all best practices or this?
Well, you're describing two things. First of all, you're describing my history and what I now teach. Mm-hmm. And you're also describing a book that I'm writing.
Oh, okay.
Which is a large part of that. Look, I left Lifespring because I was just unconscious about the need to create alignment around purpose, vision, and values. For the 4 years before that, I ran someone else's training company. This brilliant Brit, Alexander Everett, had come to America, started that company called Mind Dynamics that created that training I went through that changed my life. Well, I ended up as president of Mind Dynamics, and great success, fabulous success. There's I've lived abroad in Asia for 23 years of my life. So I'm kind of a walking, talking, one-liners from Asia guy. Well, a Zen saying is that fish don't describe water very well. Whatever we're living in, we don't see it. Yeah. What I didn't see at Mind Dynamics was that Alexander Everett, in every step he took, every word he used, down to his cellular structure, he was consistent about the purpose, vision, and values of Mind Dynamics. But he didn't language it that way. I didn't have those words, and he didn't use those words. He lived it. And we benefited from that. Everybody that worked for Mind Dynamics benefited for that, because that purpose, vision, and values, they were positive, life-affirming, and inspiring. So then I start Lifespring, and I gather some people, former Mind Dynamics people, many of them. Mm-hmm. And I assumed that this new company, I didn't know I assumed this, but I did assume that the purpose, vision, and values were clear. They weren't. And I woke up one morning 6 months after starting the company going, I don't want to go to work today in my own company.
Yeah.
It's hilarious when I look back on it. And to this day, when I work with executives, I'm checking in with them on their in-depth knowledge of their personal and organizational purpose, vision, and values. So that's what I learned from that one.
Nice.
I also learned that life can go on, that sometimes it's good to leave, because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to fix it. Today, I would know how to fix it, but I didn't then. I was in my early 30s and unconscious about that. Yeah. With ARC International, I built up the company. We were we had 7 training centers in Japan, 2 in Taiwan, 1 in Guangzhou, China, 1 in Manila, 1 in Seoul, 1 in Sydney. And we had the U.S. corporate business. I think I'm missing a country somewhere in there. Oh, Taiwan, 2 in Taiwan. Anyway, we're all over Asia, 15 training centers, 240 people, 70 full-time trainers. I mean, a booming business. So I quit. I wouldn't have used that word then because my ego would not have allowed it. But I moved to Aspen, Colorado. I did ski 80 days a year. I built the big house, bought the jet, did all of that stuff. And when I look back on the failure of ARC, because in that kind of business, your assets walk out the door every night at 5:30 or 6 o'clock. It's not about real estate. It's not about machinery. It's people, very talented people. And what I learned later is that I allowed a conversation to take place that Robert is just a rich guy living in Aspen, profiting off of the labors of all of us noble people. And the story of me sleeping on a sofa for 8 months to start the business, living with a friend, that story wasn't being told. Or the work that I did to forward our thought leadership was not being communicated effectively. So what I learned from that second failure was that you have to source your business, you have to source your family, you have to source your faith, all these important things in your life. You have to create them anew every single day. You can't assume anything. That, the classic thing in the English language is to assume is to make an ass out of you and me.
Yeah.
ASSUME. Okay.
Yeah.
That works better if you have a flip chart, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But so that was my learning from the failure of ARC. It was public. It was embarrassing. I lost a huge amount of money. But the learning was profound. And that is get in. I'm talking about all of life. Get in at 100% or get out.
Yeah. Nice.
I wish that sounded like it had more wisdom to it. It actually has a lot of depth. Get in or get out, but either one, 100%.
Yeah. You can't do it on 50%. Indeed, you have to give it your all if you want to succeed and make something out of it.
And you can't just look in on things. You have to dig in. And I had the opportunity to sell my business for a lot of money to a company in Switzerland. And I turned it down. And one of my bigger business mistakes, because, at that time I had 2 new birth children, 2 adopted special needs kids. I was loving my life, and I should have just walked away from the business for a while. And I think based on results, I would have come back as the children matured. But I didn't do that. I told myself, this huge income is going to keep coming. I don't have to do anything special. 3 trips to Asia a year, that's enough. It wasn't enough. Big learning, Erwin. And thanks for bringing that up so I can go away and cry now.
Well, Robert, you got so much wisdom with you, and it has been some hard lessons, but I also think that it has developed your wisdom and your experience, and all those learnings are definitely helping new leaders in this world, right?
I think I'm better equipped to contribute to my executive clients because I've been there and done that on the success side and on the failure side. And if I have, I'm a very average person. I get these fabulous introductions going around the world and speaking, and I've accomplished a bit, and I'm okay with that kind of introduction. But almost always, I want to remind the audience and me that most of all, I'm an average person. But I will acknowledge myself for being an average person that is a learner. I'm trying to, as my former wife said, develop that higher state of noticing, to learn from my experiences, both the success experiences and the less successful ones. I think I'm good at that. A whole lot of things I'm not good at, but I think I'm pretty good at noticing things and learning from them.
I can imagine. How did you come up with the name Extraordinary People? It reminds me of a saying, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is just a little extra. So how did you come up with that name? Because I love it, It
was not a popular term when I named the company back in 2002. But look, I do not believe that true success comes from small steps, because we as human beings are remarkable at resisting change. We will find all kinds of reasons, conscious and unconscious, to not make those small changes and to fight back against them. I have a friend from Aspen. He was actually a good friend of my friend, John Denver. And his name is Tom Crum. He has a brilliant book called The Magic of Conflict. And what that comes out of is that Tom Crum had, and I don't understand all these martial arts significations, belts, color of your belt. He's the highest level in Aikido, which is this very gentle martial art where you use momentum. Anyway, I know just enough about it to be dangerous. But Tom taught me this exercise that I do sometimes in a training, where I put up my hand like this, and then I ask a student to come up and put their hand against mine. And then I gradually apply a little bit of pressure. Erwin, what do you think they do when I apply a little bit of pressure?
Most people will resist the pressure and push back.
they push back 100% of the time. And then I remind them that I did not instruct them to push back. It's automatic.
Yeah.
And that's how we are with change. The moment, because change means that whatever image we've built up about ourselves, it's being threatened. That's what change is interpreted at an unconscious, subconscious level by human beings. So what I discovered is that if I ask you to get a little bit better, if you don't go to sleep, you're going to resist. And by the way, being bored and going to sleep about a little bit of change is also quite popular. But most of the time, when you look at change, it means that I'm going to have to give up what is safe for me in terms of my image, my self-esteem, and try something new. That's scary. So I'm going to resist. But if I say to you, Erwin, how would you like your life to be extraordinary? That's an interruption. What the people in neurolinguistic programming call it a pattern interrupt. And what it does is just kind of creates the potential of a little bit of an opening in your mind and your heart. And so what I'm up to is I think people have the capacity to lead an extraordinary life, to make extraordinary contributions, to receive extraordinary fame. But I'm not talking about the narcissistic popular fame. I'm talking about being very, very good at whatever it is you do, and creating the family that you dream of, to create the living situation that you dream of, to accomplish what you dream of. But what it's going to take is an extraordinary shift in your perspective and how you think, not what you think, but how you think, how you process feelings. You know, I recently had a major tragedy in my life, in that one of my children died. Oh, wow. And I knew this, but I also got coaching from dear friends saying, you know, because I was being like attacked by feelings of sadness and anger. Mm-hmm. And it was actually disabling to me. And so I knew enough to know that feel your feelings. Don't stuff them down. Don't pretend they aren't real. They're real. Yep. But I also know that I could choose to recover faster. Well, that's one of those extraordinary steps, because there are a lot of people that I now know who are still living with that kind of losing a child and living in that tragedy. I don't live in it. It happened. I certainly don't feel good about it, but I've learned that I can choose when those moments come. I can take the extraordinary step of just stepping outside of them and looking back at them and going, that's valid. If you didn't feel that way, you would be less human. And it's time to get on with your life and to honor your son through that. Yeah. So that's a recent example, but there are many more in my life.
Yeah. So that's actually, I think that's actually a great example of getting a higher awareness, what your former wife talked about, you know, getting higher, yes. Noticing.
Yes.
So you're actually walking the talk, so to speak.
You know, that's Alexander said to me years and years ago when I went through his instructor training back when I worked for Mindedynamics. Mm-hmm. He says, and it's not a very polite expression for a gentlemanly Brit, but he says, awareness is a bitch. You know, sometimes you notice things that you don't want to look at. Yeah. But it's better than the alternative. It's better than numbing yourself to your current reality. I mean, I don't like the last 2 months of my life very much. I never imagined it would happen. You know, I certainly had a belief that my children would outlive me. So this was a big shock to me and to his mom. But it happened. So, you know, am I going to go in a corner and curl up in a fetal position and, spend my days in mourning? I know he wouldn't have wanted that. And I don't want it.
That's a perfect description of the situation indeed. You know, it's I always say that it's something you never wished a person to outlive your children. But I always say just focus on the great moments you had together, and you're not getting him back. You have to give it the place, right? And it doesn't help you or him to stay in the emotion, so to speak.
Well, and life goes on. I have other children, I have friends, and I have a business to run, and I have clients, and overall, my life's pretty good.
Yeah, wonderful. So, I remember when my mother heard that I was starting my own business, that she said she was actually very proud of me, and she wished me all the best, of course. And she also said something, just keep in mind that you put some money aside for your retirement. And I said to her, I know where you're coming from. I understand it, but I'm going to do something that I love to do. It's my passion. Why should I stop when it's time for retirement? If you're talking the old age, so to speak, why should I stop when I'm 65 or 70? I can do this when I'm 80. I can do this when I'm 90. Why should I stop when I do what I love to do?
Yep.
No.
Mothers are always, and maybe not always, but mostly well-meaning, but they're usually operating through the filter of their own life.
Yeah.
And your mom, as mine, maybe endured World War II and being poor and being where there wasn't enough around them. And it's scarred. What I've learned about that generation is, for many of them, were very much wounded by that experience, not by a bullet, but by poverty and fear. And we're seeing a little of that today, actually, in some governments promoting a fear culture. And living in that is definitely not extraordinary.
No, definitely not, indeed. So how do you yourself, Robert, in about 5 to 10 years? Do you still have some ambitions or aspirations to achieve for yourself or for your company?
I have a couple of things. One is certainly I want to get this book out about leadership and about purpose, vision, and values, and about my journey when I did and did not utilize the power of communicating those. So that book is important to me, and having people really read it, use it, that's important to me.
Yeah.
It's incredibly rewarding to have people walk up to me in personal appearances and tell me that they've read my book and that it changed their life, my current book. And I love that. I really like it. I like that the book is touching people in a profound way. That was my intention, and it's happening. I want to, one of my daughters was born addicted to cocaine, to crack, and has permanent brain damage. She requires care. My former wife and I have put together a trust. I found out it's very expensive to support somebody after you're no longer there, and somebody has to be paid for all the things that we're doing. Basically. So I'm working on that, on funding that trust. I think that we're at a turning point in society, in the Western world, certainly worldwide, but definitely in the Western world. We have fallen away from some life-affirming principles, I believe, and around personal responsibility. I'd like to do my small part in waking some people up about that. It's been meaningful in my life. I've seen over 1 million people benefit from it, from that experience. I think experiential learning, as developed as it is, it can get better. I want to be part of that. And then finally, I'm working with a group of spiritually minded people that don't go to church, or don't go to temple, or don't go to ashram, or don't go to synagogue, but are sourced in a belief in God, a belief in a higher power, and working with them has been a real delight. I want to do more of it. I want to attract more people into that. It's called Living a Better Story. In the idea of being, you've lived a great story up until now. Yeah. How about a better one?
Yeah, nice. Nice. It reminds me of of a man I know. I attended a seminar, I guess, 4 years ago, and the man was 77 at that moment. And that day he decided to buy a coaching program from one of the speakers. And he said to me, I'm planning to become 102 years old, and I'm not planning to do nothing for the next 25 years. And I love that mindset, right? It's
absolutely.
It shows what his mindset and his spirit is. So
yes, he is our brother from a different mother.
Exactly. Yeah. Robert, you have so much wisdom and experience. Is there any tip of little piece of wisdom you would like to share with the audience?
Look, that's a 3 or 5 day seminar, and I charge a lot of money for it. Erwin, look, I recommend my book, Living an Extraordinary Life. It's available on all those platforms, or if you want a signed copy, then go on my website, extraordinarypeople.com. But also on extraordinarypeople.com is a 28-page PDF that's a summary of what I know about creating a successful, integrated, joyful life. And I've worked on it for years and years. And we don't have time to go into all of the research that went into it, but it was significant. And it's free. So if you sign up for my weekly email, which is called an Extraordinary Minute, wisdom that's designed to be read in 1 minute or less. And by the way, it's easy to unsubscribe if it turns out to be clutter to your inbox.
Yeah.
But along with that, you get this 28-page PDF. You're free to share it with friends or colleagues. It makes a great discussion thing for the next time you have coffee with someone. And that's my way of contributing, of giving back.
Nice.
And no charge.
That's very generous of you, Robert. So talking about that, if people want to know more about you or get in touch with you, how can they do that? Where do they have to go?
Extraordinarypeople.com. And if you do, that's one of the reasons I do the weekly email, is that it gets me in relationship with people. And, I get back to people and, within a day or two, to every email, to every contact. With business people, I offer a 30-minute free consult to see if I can help them with some issue and find out if we should do further work together or not. So, but extraordinarypeople.com is the way. And my email is robert@extraordinarypeople.com.
That's not so hard to remember. Well, thank you, Robert. As I already expected, you got a lot of wisdom and experience to share. If you want to know more about Robert, go to his website, extraordinarypeople.com. I would recommend downloading this PDF and signing up for his newsletter, because I bet he got loads more of wisdom to share with you. Thanks, Robert, for being my guest. I wish you all the best, and let's keep in touch.
Thank you, Erwin. It's been a great pleasure chatting with you.
I hope you liked this episode. Make sure to check out the other episodes, because each one is filled with interesting and inspiring stories and energy. Are you following your passion as well and make a good living out of it? Contact me and you could be my next guest. Would you like to follow your passion but are not there yet? Check out my website, millionaireLifeStrategy.com, and book an appointment to discover what I could do for you. Don't forget to share the podcast with your friends so that they get inspired as well.